I'm glad you're here. Do you know that what we're doing here is very important? People gathering together, people seeing each other's eyeballs, people coming to the same room with a like-minded experience. That's important, what we're doing here. I hope you know that's important. Who knows that's important? Yeah, I'm proud of you guys. You know it's important too. We're getting trapped in a world of screens, so this is becoming more and more important. So let's make sure we value that and remember that. All right, we're going to get right into it today with statement of faith number 6. I should have had you guys guess, and then whoever got the right number would get a prize. Like if you're keeping track and scratching them off, your odds get better. All right, so this is statement number 6 as put forth by our Unity co-founders. And if you're wondering why the screen is a little bit darker than usual, so last week we lost this projector, and we replaced the bulb, and then today we lost both of them within 2 hours of each other. So they are now dead, so we're going to have to come up with some finances to replace those. But we got this little guy right here as a backup, doing the very best he can. He's trying so hard, but he's so small. So we're going to give him a round of applause, this little guy right here. Come on. Yeah. I appreciate his effort. Anyway, okay. Statement of faith number 6. We believe in the 12 disciples, the 12 powers of man, going forth into mind and body with power and authority to teach, preach, heal, and wholly save man in the world from sin, sickness, and death. Now that is a mouthful. This is an interesting statement because it begins pretty straightforward and familiar to most of us, but then it rapidly heads into some territory that is unfamiliar probably to most of us here, definitely mostly unfamiliar to the rest of the people in the world. It starts by stating that they believe in the 12 disciples, the actual 12 disciples that historically were in the New Testament narrative, so they believe in that. But then it puts a twist on that, as our co-founders like to do, put a twist on the things they found in the Bible. And they go on to describe something that is all but unknown to most people, the 12 powers of man. So let's stop right there, just in that opening statement, and give a bit of context to what that is. As you may or may not know, in Unity, we look at the Bible as largely a metaphysical text with a deeper meaning that goes beyond just the literal words on the pages. And this is really what our co-founders created this movement on, the Unity movement. And metaphysical Bible interpretation is something pretty much only they were doing at that time. They were not only founders of this Unity movement, but in many ways also pioneers of Bible metaphysics. So much so that we have with us in Unity what is called the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, which was Charles Fillmore's life's work, working with a team of Bible scholars to put together these deeper meanings, or actually original meanings of what these words meant in the Bible. So when our co-founders read the Bible, they didn't just see a story from 2,000 years ago. They saw a manual on how modern individuals can spiritually evolve into a Christ themselves. And what eventually came out of their study of the Bible was the realization that Jesus' 12 disciples were not only a part of his ministry, but they were also a part of us. That was this realization that they had. Each disciple's name and place in the Bible story revealed a deeper truth about that disciple's place in our consciousness and our body. And what resulted is what is called the 12 powers of man. Now these 12 powers, you're probably not going to be able to read them, so I'll read them off to you. We have faith, strength, love, imagination, the power of power, understanding, wisdom, will, order, release, zeal, and life. You're not going to have to memorize those, so don't worry about that. But I did for my ministry test, and it gets more detailed than that. So these are 12 powers or abilities in us that are represented in the Bible as each one of the 12 disciples. So each one of these powers is related to one of the disciples. So we have faith as Peter, strength as Andrew, wisdom, or what we call judgment, is James, son of Zebedee. We have love, which is John. Power is Philip. You getting this all down? This part you will be tested on. Power is Philip. Imagination is Bartholomew. Understanding is Thomas. Will is Matthew. Order is James, son of Alphaeus. Zeal is Simon the Canaanite. Elimination is Thaddeus. And life is Judas. And each one of these abilities, believe it or not, also has a power center, a place that it is localized in the human body. This was actually the original chart that the Fillmores came up with back in the day of where each one of these powers is localized in our body. Do you want me to go through each spot? Do you want to roll them off again? Because I had to, for my test, I had to know every step of this process. The power, the disciple, and where it was in the Bible. And there's actually a color associated with each one that we're not going to go into today because I'm already getting bored. But you get the idea. So there's power centers in the body. If you want to know more about that, you could look at that slide after the service. You want to write it down. So I have by no means the time to go into detail about each power and how this unfolds. But Unity does offer a course on this topic that is called the 12 Powers, if you ever wanted to take that course and learn more. And there's also many books in our lending library and in our bookstore that cover this topic if you want to find out more there. I can, however, let you know that each power center has two natures or stages of expression within each of us, which is easiest to explain as a lower nature or expression and a higher nature or expression. For example, the power of love. From our lower egoic nature, we can express and experience love as a very unstable and selfish experience. Love, in this instance, is more akin to passion or puppy love, as we might call it, which is based primarily on one's desires being met, right? This love is contingent on one's desires being met. I love this car until it gets old and rusty. Then my love fades for this car. I love this person until they get on my nerves. And then my love fades for this person. So that's the lower expression of love. But the higher nature of love, or what is called the divine nature of love, or divine expression of love, is unwavering. It is limitless, flawless, and everlasting. You would never stop loving something from that place. It would be an unconditional, everlasting, infinite love. So it is a much grander love than most of us will experience in the human condition as mortals, unless we evolve spiritually and are able to tap into the infinite agape love of God. If we don't make that step, that process, that transition into that love, most of us will go throughout life never actually experiencing this divine love. So like the power of love, each power has this lower aspect, this lower expression, and a higher or divine form of that power that we can express. Okay, that's a lot of information. Is that a lot of information? Yeah. Okay, it looks like you all really got it. I see a lot of looks on faces like, yeah, nailed it, I've got this. All right, so far we've only established some backstories on this statement of faith that we looked at put forward by the Fillmores. So let's get back to this statement of faith and see if it makes more sense and see how it continues to unfold. So they said, we believe in the 12 disciples, the 12 powers of man, going forth into mind and body with power and authority to teach, preach, heal, and wholly save man and the world from sin, sickness, and death. Now that we have an idea of what the 12 powers are, we can start to unpack what they mean by these important words, going forth. These powers going forth. Now, has anyone ever heard of the Great Commission in the Bible? The Great Commission. If you said the what, it probably means you never heard of it. The Great Commission. Well, lucky for you, tonight you are going to learn about it. Aren't you excited about that? I see a lot of smiling faces. Yeah, Todd, I like the enthusiasm. Even the arm went up with a hurrah. Well, the Great Commission, for those of you that work in sales, doesn't mean you're about to get a cut of tonight's income. So just let that go right now. I saw you getting a little excited. All right, here we go. The Great Commission from Jesus Christ. This is from Matthew 28, 16 through 20. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Now, when you look at this image behind me, you realize that surely Christ is waiting for some high fives, right? You see the hands up, waiting for some high fives, and his buddies are actually just kind of leaving him hanging there, which really sets Christianity off on an awkward course from that point forward. I think that's where things started to get weird, and it just got weirder after that, right? That's pretty cool, like, hey, and then they didn't get it. So for many people, the Great Commission is Jesus telling his disciples to head out into the world and spread the religion of Christianity far and wide to all people. That is how it's understood by most organizations. But that is sort of the literal or surface understanding of what happened at that moment. There is a deeper activity taking place with the Great Commission, which we will get to next.
Many times can one heart break. It was never supposed to be this way. Look in the mirror, but you'll find someone you never thought you'd be. Still recognize the one I loved in your tear-stained eyes. I know you might not see him now, so
than they could ever do to lose and words and war. So hold on, it's not the end. No, this is where love's work begins. And I'm making all things new, and I will make a miracle of you. When you see broken beyond repair, I see healing beyond belief. When you see too far gone, I see one step away from home. You see nothing but damaged goods. I see something good in the making. I'm not finished yet. When you see wounded, I see mended. I see my child, my beloved, the new creation you're becoming. You see the scars from when you fell, but I see the stories they will tell. You see worthless, but I see priceless. You see pain, but I see a purpose. You see unworthy, undeserving, but I see you through eyes of mercy.
Broken beyond repair, I see healing beyond belief. You're not too far gone. You're one step away from home.
You see nothing but damaged goods. I see something good in the making. I'm not finished yet. When you see wounded, I see mended. I see mended. I see mended. I'm not finished yet. When you see wounded, I see mended.
I like coming out to a drum fill. Feels good. All right, so what is really going on with this Great Commission? Is Jesus telling his disciples to spread this new religion to all people and convert them to the one true path of Christianity, which we sort of saw unfold from that point forward? Well, our co-founder Charles Fillmore speaks to this in the book he wrote, Mysteries of John, which is the book of John that he sort of puts the metaphysical twist on. So Jesus Christ commissioned his followers to make disciples of all nations. This commission was given to them on a mountain in Galilee. A mountain always symbolizes spiritual elevation or a high place in consciousness. So there Jesus is standing on a mountain, which symbolizes higher consciousness. Not just his higher consciousness, but the higher consciousness of all of us. This higher consciousness is sending forth the disciples, sending forth the 12 powers in us of faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, elimination, and life. Sending forth these powers to lift us up into this higher awareness. So for example, it requires faith to stay the course on the spiritual journey when it gets difficult, to remain focused on God as the end goal in order to achieve that end goal. But I could have a lower egotistical expression of faith, as we talked about. Each one has a lower and a higher expression. I could have this lower expression of faith as one who blindly follows untrustworthy people, causing me to continually get into trouble time and time again in my life. That lower expression of faith needs to be elevated, needs to be lifted up and steered into a higher direction so that my faith aligns with divine faith, this higher level of faith, which is the knowing that God is moving in and through all things ever present in my life. Then my little faith that I had in the personality and the ego goes from trusting in untrustworthy people to trusting in the guidance of my own intuition or my Christ awareness. As each of my 12 powers is lifted up in this way, I become more Christ-like. I become more Christian. So I'm going to have Charles help me clarify that statement. Continuing on his book, Mysteries of John, he said, in order to make the world Christian, individuals must become Christian. The Christ Spirit must enter every one. The Christ is knocking at the door of every heart, and he will enter when he is invited to come in. The mind that is open to truth invites Christ to enter. So the word Christian here does not mean a follower of the Christian religion. A Christian, as it was likely intended to be when the word was created, is someone who is living from the Christ awareness, who is living the Christ life, who is accessing their own higher awareness and is making decisions and choices in their life from that awareness. That would be a Christian, someone who is living the Christ life. The 12 disciples were sent out to facilitate people of all nations coming into this higher awareness. The awareness we call Christ here in Unity, and others might call Buddha nature, or they might call the Tao, or awakening, or self-realization, or enlightenment, all referring to the same process of coming into this higher awareness of living. Just as the 12 powers in our bodies are there to facilitate us coming into this same awareness. So really, if you think about it this way, and I think this graphic helps, you can see that the Great Commission is this perfect Christ awareness, which would be the perfect light coming into the prism, the perfect Christ awareness, splitting into physical expression as these 12 powers coming out, expressing into our bodies, our minds, our consciousness, into the world. So you have the perfect Christ awareness coming here, splitting into these powers, into our physical world, into our experience. All right, so we've learned a bit more now. So let's get back to statement number 6, because it finishes with a great commission of its own, which is something that I believe often gets overlooked here in Unity. We skip to the end, which says, to teach, preach, heal, and wholly save man and the world from sin, sickness, and death. As we evolve our 12 powers, as we elevate towards our own higher awareness and our Christ consciousness, we are given a task, or rather we are blessed with an ability, the ability to help others do the same. That is something that I think gets lost in Unity, probably gets lost in a lot of churches around the world, especially New Thought churches. To teach, to preach, to heal wholly and save man and the world from sin, sickness, and death. We're not talking about Jesus there, we're talking about us. This is a large task, but it is the task that each of us has been given in this lifetime. And in essence, the Fillmores are telling us this. Do the spiritual work, get your house in order, because this world needs your help. This world needs your help. In fact, that is the same basic message of every spiritual master who ever walked this planet. Get your consciousness elevated so you can help other people do the same. Raise your consciousness so you can facilitate the process of the collective consciousness raising. Look at the world today. Do you think elevating consciousness is important for our world today? 6 people think so. Do you believe that elevating consciousness is important for the world today? Yes. Do you know that elevating consciousness is important for the world today? Yes. Can you conceive of anything more important than that in the world today? Every single issue in your life, every single issue on this planet comes back to consciousness. I was on a ski trip a couple weeks ago with my friends, and one of my friends is a huge activist. He's one of those people that's into every issue you could possibly imagine. You bring up a topic, and he knows exactly what's the conspiracy theory behind it and how they're trying to unravel the universe. And so we were talking about this, and we covered all the issues from the ice caps melting to big oil and pharma and everything else. At the end of it, he said, there's just so many of these issues to tackle. But there's really only one issue to tackle: consciousness. It's the only issue that needs to be tackled. No fix is a permanent fix unless you fix the consciousness that created the problem. We will find fixes to all of our issues here, but they cannot be permanent and everlasting unless we fix the consciousness of those who created those problems. Otherwise, they will find a way to come back again. Now, are you appropriately investing your time, talents, and resources to help create that fix? The permanent fix for you and your life, the permanent fix for all life. Because believe it or not, both of those have you at the epicenter. The Guru Paramahansa Yogananda in the book Second Coming of Christ said this: the fruits of one's spiritual awakening are a blessing not only on one's own life, but on the whole world at large. We mustn't forget that there is a collective consciousness. So often we forget that there is a collective consciousness at work, of which we are all a part. It is working in and through the universe at all times. As one of us raises our consciousness, it affects all the others. But perhaps we think we are just a little drop among billions of drops which make up this collective consciousness ocean. How could me as one little drop really make any impact whatsoever? But that is not how this works. That is a misnomer of human misperception. It's not a one-for-one equation when it comes to consciousness. It's not that if I raise my consciousness, I might affect one drop around me. Because one positive drop in this ocean affects every single other drop in the ocean. We are one consciousness. One person elevating their consciousness affects the entire system. He continued on and said, the person who keeps himself cleansed of all wrong vibrations produces a powerful, uplifting effect on his contemporaries. One moon gives more luster than all the stars, so a mooned soul, one who purely reflects the light of God, can influence the masses much more than the masses influence each other. Think of the power of that. Just you elevating your own consciousness does more impact than all the people blibber blabbering about all the negativity that's on the news today. Is there weight to that and responsibility? Absolutely. We have got to start doing the work. Why? Because the world needs us to. We cannot slough it off anymore. We cannot say, I don't have time for meditation and prayer. I don't have the ability to give financially to the things I know should be giving to. I don't have the time to serve. That was 20 years ago. It's not going to happen today. We've got to step out of that ridiculous consciousness and get present with what is calling us. We've got to do the spiritual work to lift up the collective consciousness together, because each person that does it has an effect on everything. Our world is waiting for our spiritual unfoldment because it desperately needs it. And one of the primary ways that we grow towards this unfoldment is by giving and serving. I just recently had the pleasure of speaking to a gentleman named John Wimberly. He's a professional in the field of modern church issues. I was speaking to him because I'm on the Unity Worldwide Ministries Board of Trustees, and we're interviewing different people to come have a presentation to us about the current state of church and where things are going. He works with churches all over the United States of all different denominations, and said he has discovered this about modern church. He said, today, if a church is inward focused, it is dying. And if it is focused outward, it is thriving. The spiritual work is twofold. It is internal work and it is external work. Raising your awareness and helping others to do the same through donations, through service, through getting out into the world. This is true for the individual, and it is true for the church or spiritual center. An individual can be overly me-focused in their spiritual practice, and so can a church by becoming too insular about what's happening inside the walls. So I thought tonight maybe we could put our money where our mouth is. And I haven't gotten approval for this, so if anybody rushes me from the audience, you'll know what's happened. Tell me if you think this is a good idea, and this is something you'd be willing to support this evening. What if I took 20% of what comes in tonight from this service and hand-delivered it to another charity in the Boulder area this week? And then next week, when we come back together on Saturday, I'll report back to who we gave it to and how it went. How would that make you feel if we did that? That would make you feel good? Would that make you one clap good, or would that make you feel better than that? 7 claps good. All right, we're good. 8 claps, thank you. Thank you, Jackson. I am willing to give this a try for tonight if you will all stand with me in that process. If you are willing to contribute tonight and give in this way, to recognize that this world needs so much right now. That's not just about us spiritually awakening and affecting what happens in here, it's about us affecting what happens in this entire city. We're not going to look too big, too ridiculous. Let's see what we can do around here. There's enough issues to be dealt with around here. Trust me, we all see them. All right? Great. That's the truth as I experience it. Now let's take a moment to do some of this spiritual practice to elevate this awareness by going into the silence. So I invite you to sit with your spine straight if possible, and to close your eyes if you're comfortable, and to just simply center on your breath and allow yourself to have a moment of internal reflection. If I'm here tonight, I've answered a call. Maybe I don't know what called me here, but there's a good chance it was my own higher awareness, reminding me that the world needs me. It needs me to step up my game, to be a little bit more kind in my conversations, my thoughts, to choose more wisely in the things that I put into my mind and body, the foods I eat, the books I read, the shows I watch, to be more mindful of the experience I'm creating, not just for myself, but for everyone around me. I've been called tonight to waken up just a little bit, to remove the fallacy that me doing a little bit of meditation and prayer and opening up really makes any impact. But to be reminded that I'm not alone. I'm interconnected with every person in this experience, and as I elevate my consciousness even more, I'm interconnected with every creature in this experience, and if I'm willing to go a step further, I'm interconnected with every object, person, place, or thing in existence. Each and every one of those people, creatures, and things standing by and waiting for my consciousness to grow. It's not saying I have to duck out of the world and go into a cave, disappear, but just a little bit each day. If I could do just a little more, to spread a little more joy and love in my own mind, in my own body, and into the experience I present in front of myself as I walk through life. Creating an air of gratitude and peace. I don't have to tell others how to live or what they're doing wrong, or what's the right way to do it. I just show up as the example of what I believe, and they will take notice. A group of negative people cannot help but take notice of the person who's still smiling, who's still laughing, who still finds joy amidst the chaos, who has the willpower to turn off the negativity. People take notice. And so we are examples of the truth we believe. How good it feels just to sit here and to be quiet in a room filled with other people also being quiet. How rarely we get this opportunity and how special it is. Being reminded that this is still possible. We can still find each other, come together, and simply sit. Without distraction, without an awkward silence of someone trying to interject something to say, but just being. And as we go forth now from this time of silence together, we hold on to this peace and stillness and carry it throughout the rest of our evening and the rest of this week. And so it is. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So this is our giving and serving segment. And we do have many ways to give here at Unity of Boulder. And tonight and tomorrow I'm going to look at all the different platforms we have for giving. So we have text to give, we have our dip jars out in the lobby, we have the baskets in the back. I'll go and find all of those and look at everything that came in tonight, put together 20%, and find a charity I'm going to go give that to and report back to you next week. I was in meditation yesterday morning, and this is what hit me as the right thing to do. So we'll try it. And I hope you guys are on board. Okay, we have something special coming up.
A guest musician, Jamie Bastello, is going to come and sing for us. So if she would come on out.